The BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Chinese Brands for 2015 increased 22% in value to $464.3 billion. Tencent, the internet portal, almost doubled in brand value year on year and achieved the #1 ranking place, displacing China Mobile, which has held that position since the inception of the BrandZ China valuations rankings in 2011. On the strength of its initial public offering IPO, which raised a record $25 billion, Alibaba became eligible and entered the BrandZ China rankings for the very first time, at the #2 spot, just below Tencent. While demonstrating the power of these two particular brands, these achievements also reflect several larger trends from here in China. The shift in brand value growth to market-driven brands and away from SOEs, state-owned enterprises. The emerging presence of China brands in the global marketplace, and the influence of technology, a category that by itself accounted for almost a quarter of the top 100 brand value. These trends unfolded in a rebalancing China where economic growth rate of around 7% remains robust relative to other national economies, but half of what it was during the time of China's massive economic expansion and when it was at its peak. Of the 21 products and service categories examined in the BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Chinese Brands for 2015, 12 rose in value, 7 declined and 2 remained the same, in part because of the economic reforms from the Chinese government's third plenary session, which sets forward-looking policy. And it propelled some sectors and slowed others. Retail and technology categories comprised of market-driven brands. They grew sharply. Banks and alcohol declined as government regulatory changes impacted both categories, which are predominantly driven by state-owned enterprises. The BrandZ Most Valuable Chinese Brands for 2015 marks the 5th anniversary of this study, which started by ranking the top 50 brands, expanding to 100 in 2014 to keep pace with the rapid brand and consumer development here in China. The 5-year history puts current results into a meaningful context. The conclusion is unequivocal. Even as China's growth slowed and economic policies evolved, brand value appreciated steadily. Between 2011 and 2015, the overall brand value of the BrandZ China Top 50 improved 59%, surpassing the brand value growth rate for the BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands, and far exceeding the performance of the BrandZ Top 50 Brazilian and Latin American rankings. The role brands play here in China has evolved over time. Deng Xiaoping's market opening up in 1978 unleashed 30 years of dramatic economic growth, driven primarily by powerful SOEs, the state-owned enterprises. The third plenary session under the new President Xi Jinping created conditions for more market competition amongst all brands, even SOEs, in virtually every single category. President Xi framed the possibilities as the Chinese dream, the notion that the nation, collective, and individual citizens can achieve equitable, sustained prosperity in a modern China informed by the values and teachings of its 5,000-year-old civilization. Both Chinese and multinational brands can play a role in helping China and its people realize the Chinese dream by providing quality, and safe products and services that improve the lives of individual consumers and help drive economic growth. Brand success requires understanding the historical context that shapes modern China today. The past 30 years of economic growth, when Chinese companies acted as the world's factory, re-energized the nation. China is now experiencing a period of national rejuvenation, reclaiming a heritage of product innovation and cultural originality that prevailed before the onslaught of Western imperialism and the decline of the Manchu dynasty in the 19th century. Today's China, both proud of its past and willing to look outwards for ideas, recalls the period of the Silk Road, when China was a vast and well-organized society engaged with the world as a valued trading partner. In this contemporary context, China is open for building valuable brands, and brand building in China is influenced by both Western practices and the characteristics of Chinese business operations and management. Chinese companies are managing on the run. They adapt rapidly and take risks. This is covered comprehensively in our recently published book, The Thoughts of Chairman Now. Their flexibility may be shaped in part by a worldwide view. The Western conception of time is linear. The world begins with creation. In Eastern thought, time moves circular without the beginning or an end. Chinese companies look at the year-on-year growth with an underlying sense of pragmatism, a willingness to take risks, to find approaches that work. Brand extensions and other market adaptations can take time to consider, but then happen quickly. In the conventional wisdom, Chinese companies are labyrinthian webs of holding companies and subsidiaries where complication and bureaucracy impede action. The important counterpoint to this perception is that China is fundamentally entrepreneurial, a nation of family businesses. The collaboration necessary for brand building happens more organically in China than in the hierarchical and sliced organizational structures that have characterized Western businesses. Chinese brands often originate and develop in lower tier markets before expanding to major cities. In contrast, multinational brands typically first establish in Beijing or here in Shanghai or Guangzhou before venturing more deeply into China. Therefore, Chinese brands are more likely to spend their formative years serving customers who are more concerned with product efficacy and a strong value proposition than with image. Chinese brands understand how to meet the aspirations of this large group of consumers. At the very same time, Chinese brands remain less adept at building the emotional connectors with consumers, which is the key to successful brand building. Even more fundamental than the brand building practices of Chinese brands, the definition of brand success here in China differs somewhat. Like Western brands, Chinese brands aim to make a profit and reward shareholders, but success here in China also has a communal aspect. A successful Chinese brand wants to be seen by consumers as helping the Chinese people and contributing to the welfare of the Chinese nation. This notion is similar to CSR, corporate social responsibility, but different and deeper. In the West, even where brands have a CSR campaign that's most evolved, that it's connected to a brand's essence and not simply a marketing tactic, the object of the social responsibility varies. A brand might affiliate with a particular charity or cause. In China, the brand commitment is much more likely to be about making China better in some way. As Chinese consumers gain more experience with brands, attitudes are changing. With more brands to choose from, choosing is not only about status. Brand is also a marker of quality or safety. Younger people look to brands as an aspect of identity, which involves both inward reflection, not just outward display. Brand has become a symbol of lifestyle as well, especially in Tier 1 and 2 tier markets. Similar to the West, there's a desire to realise personal aspirations quickly and not postpone gratification. Government policies in a rebalancing China encourages these aspirations, but attempts to shape them in ways that are consistent with the values of Chinese culture derived from Confucius and other Chinese philosophers. Honestly gained wealth is fine. Corruption in today's China is not. This approach aims for both sustained economic growth and social stability. The unique characteristics of the China market has helped drive the growth of brand value leaders such as Baidu, Alibaba and Tencent. The incubation period these brands enjoyed without exposure to Western competitors like Google, Facebook and Twitter provided undeniable advantage. But it doesn't completely explain their extraordinary developments. Other factors were at work. Reasons that help explain the success of these Chinese brands include native talent, vision and operational skill. Even in the 1980s, Chinese individuals studied abroad and became IT experts and to develop their entrepreneurial instincts. And the Chinese technology leaders bring vision, speed and the ability to create collaborative work environments. In addition, sociological factors and ironies drove faster adoption of the internet. Chinese youth, like young people everywhere, search for identity. But in the family-centered culture of China, most conducted a search without the benefits of siblings because of the country's one-child policy. Brands in a country with limits on self-expression built the world's largest network of interpersonal communications. The government enabled this internet expansion to happen with the speed and coordination possible in a state-directed economy. This interdependence of what's good for the individual with what's also good and serves the welfare of the country is consistent with the Chinese dream. The dream of the Chinese people, like the dreams of people everywhere, are about health and prosperity for themselves and their family. The national dream includes some of these aspirations, but also other goals. While personal and national priorities are not always aligned, they are achieved collaboratively. As we explore further in the BrandZ publication, The China Dream, which is available on www.brandz.com. So the fulfillment of the Chinese dream influences the evolution of brand China, the public perception of Chinese products and services. And the strengthening of brand China will help accelerate fulfillment of the Chinese dream. Brands like Guri and Haier, well-known home appliance manufacturers in China, enjoy worldwide presence as suppliers to Western brand marketeers and are marketing more aggressively now abroad under their own brands. Still, the most famous Chinese brand outside of China, Alibaba, is best known to international consumers more for its record-breaking IPO than its products and services. As that changes, Alibaba and brands that follow its example will help fulfill the Chinese dream and lift the perception of brand China. Well, that's just one of the insights from the BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Chinese Brands for 2015. To find out more, just go to www.brandz.com, where you can download the entire report, plus more videos like this.